On this podcast, we're talking about the super tornado outbreak of 1974. In 1974, a super outbreak was the second largest tornado outbreak on record for a single 24-hour period. Just behind the 2011 super outbreak, it was also the most violent tornado outbreak ever recorded, with 30 F4 and F5 tornadoes confirmed from April 3rd to April 4th, 1974. There were 148 tornadoes confirmed in 13 U.S. states and the Canadian province of Ontario. In the United States, tornadoes struck Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and New York. The outbreak caused roughly $843 million, and that's a lot of money. I mean, I'm staggered by seeing that right there. The damage that's what occurred in the U.S. only. The outbreak extensively damaged approximately 900 square miles along a total combined path length, get this, of 2,600 miles. At one point, as many as 15 separate tornadoes were on the ground simultaneously. Did you hear that? At one point, 15 of these were on the ground simultaneously. In 1974 super tornado outbreak was the first tornado outbreak in recorded history to produce more than 100 tornadoes in under a 24-hour period, a feat that was not repeated globally until 1981 in the United Kingdom tornado outbreak, and in the United States in 2011. I was there in 1974. I saw it, and you know what? I forgot to repeat the number, so I'm going to pause this because I can do that, and then I'm going to give you the number, and we're going to pick it right back up. So this tornado outbreak made a mark in my mind, and I told you on the last podcast and earlier in this live feed that it got really, really, really hot that day, and it was when I got home from school, and it was on a Wednesday. When we got home from school, my brother Mark and my sister was 3 years old. She was already home. It was hot. And we, even trying to play outside, it was hot. And it being that hot early in the year, you don't think about it as, spring's coming, summer's coming. But now we look back and we see all that a little differently. That, as I mentioned on the last podcast, we actually witnessed one of the tornadoes within 2 miles of us. Mother and the children were home alone without dad. That tornado is the largest tornado. It's the first tornado I had ever seen personally, and I have seen others since, but I've never seen one larger than this. And I've got pictures, maybe on another. We may do a production about this next year and actually show pictures and footage. This tornado, and little did I know, hindsight's 20/20, because now I want to talk a little bit about what we saw the next day. But little did I know, as that tornado was going across, it was taking lives. We were literally watching a tornado go by that was taking lives within 2 miles of us. And there were people down in Poozy Ridge and Cottonburg, and then that tornado trekked along across over to Red House Road. And if you're familiar, and I know people are hearing this all over the globe and all over the states, but I'm talking about what I saw. And I want to tell you now a little bit about some of the things we experienced. Now, I told you how hot it was, and when that tornado hit, I want to tell you what happened after that tornado went through. There was power outage, massive. There was no power in the entire county for days. We had no power whatsoever. We had some batteries for AM radio, so we listened to AM radio, and that was the first time in my life. These warnings you get that are tests of the emergency broadcast system? Well, this time it was real. The emergency broadcast system kicked in, and that is all that was playing on every AM radio station. After this tornado went through, the rest of the day and into the evening was never the same. The tornado ripped through, and then there were tornado warnings of other smaller tornado outbreaks all over. But something else I had never seen before was lightning was continual. You could literally, although there was a power out, there were power outage and you couldn't see anything for the thickness as the sun set and you got into nighttime, although you couldn't see anything because all the power was out. the sky was lit up by a constant roll of lightning, and it was a constant roll of lightning without even any thunder. It was very, very eerie. Now, I told you that my father had built the first home in the subdivision we were in, and my uncle and my aunt, my dad's sister, and her husband and my cousins built a house at the end of the other end of the subdivision. We didn't have a basement. They did. We went to their house. And this is where we were hearing all the AM radio and hearing about the outbreak the rest of the evening, and scared out of our minds. And so I don't remember sleeping at all that night, but we must have. But the lightning rolled and rolled and rolled the most part of the night. I mean, it was not like there's lightning here and then lightning over there. The entire sky was like ripples of waves of lightning. I'd never seen anything like that. And we're talking into the night. Now, there are people who, some of you listening to me now, maybe you saw it too. You know what I'm talking about. And people who may hear this later in the day because they're not up quite yet. We do own the 5 o'clock hour. And I really appreciate like Roy weighing in and Terry weighing in from Texas. They're an hour behind us, so they're up an hour earlier than we are even doing this. But good morning, guys. Special place in my heart for the early riser. So all that night we are actually hearing nothing but the emergency broadcast system on a battery powered AM radio, and we're watching the lightning roll like ripples of waves, constant all night long. Remember I told you how hot it was? Well, the next morning, and the morning came early, it seemed like, we literally had to had to build a fire. I don't even think we were prepared with Coleman heaters or anything, the Coleman burners. We had to build fires and try to cook things, and we did it. We just cooked things on we didn't have grills, sophisticated grills back then like we do now, and we got through it, but we were without power for days. But I remember the next morning, I told you how hot it was? It was so hot when I got off the school bus that day on April 3rd, 1974. But the next day, it was ice cold that morning, and we had to wear coats, and the roads everywhere were impassable. People were having to get out with chainsaws and trucks and tractors. And so I remember we all got in our cars. I did, our family did, and my uncle and aunt and our cousins, and we all went down toward the Poozy Ridge because we heard what had happened. And I'm not going to describe everything we saw. I will not do that. But people lost their lives, and the way they lost their lives and the way they were discovered is, I'm going to tell you, it changed how we deal with emergencies, that tornado outbreak in 1974. But I want to tell you, before we run out of time, just a few things we saw that day as we walked with our coats on the next day. I mean, it may have been in the 40s. It went from 90 in less than a 24-hour period down to 40 degrees. It was just amazing. But we saw houses, one house, and people died in this one. One house was literally in whole, picked up off its foundation, dragged down a hollow, and then, I know affectionately everybody calls them a holler, but it's a hollow. Down the hollow, and then back up the hollow, and then halfway down another one. And people died in that. And again, I don't want to describe, and I will not describe how they were discovered. Another thing we saw that really let alone there were cars just blown hundreds of feet away, but something that really, really marked me. Good morning, Luana. Special place in my heart for the early riser. Another thing I saw that really, really marked me, straw bales were burst open, and straw was literally like a dart or an arrow shot. I wish we had cameras back then to take the pictures of what I saw. I'll never forget it. Were shot straight through telephone poles. I mean, in one side and then out the other. Like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And it wasn't just one or two. It would take like a handful and just boom. Until where the straw itself nearly cut the telephone pole in half and shot through like that. And I feel like I'm going to have to maybe continue this on tomorrow because I saw so much. And my father was a builder at the time, and he was also in partners with A.D. Grant at the time, and had a wonderful partnership there for a while when we were kids. And there's a gentleman at the time in Cottonburg, and by the name of Creighton Whitaker. And after we saw his house, he had a story and a half, like a craftsman style home, story and a half. And the two sides of that home, it was about to explode. The two sides the home was about to explode, and there were two of those identical type of floor plans. I think we will talk more about this tomorrow. Began to explode. Well, Dad and AD literally put those two homes back together. So we're probably going to talk about it. Can you believe we're out of time? You're listening to the Real Gary Tussey podcast, and we are encouraging you to enjoy life, live it and let live, have freedom and set others free, and apply a high energy pursuit toward happiness. Tussey out.